I had a life-changing experience when I was 18, right before I started college. I was shot, and that really changed my life. I thought I was going to die, and it took some time for me to recover from that. But from that day on, every day when I wake up in the morning and I'm alive, it's a great day already.
Hey there, this is Grateful and Full of Greatness, and today I sat down again with my amazing mentor, Dr. Cristina Versari. She goes deeper into her story. We talk about the power of mentors and role models and how your environment dictates your performance. I hope that you grab a pen and paper for this one because even though she's back for, I believe, the third or fourth time, we do deep work here and we have a great conversation that's filled with the things that matter. Tune in.
This episode is brought to you by Whoop. For the last several years, I have not taken this off my wrist. Okay, maybe I have, but it was just to change the colors. I truly trust Whoop. It's a wearable that lets me know about my resting heart rate variability, respiratory rate, and so much more. I wake up in either the green, yellow, or red, and I know if I should prioritize training and working out harder or I need to prioritize recovery. I was always looking for ways to optimize and take my performance and training to the next level. Whoop's helped me do that. If you're looking to get started, here's a free wristband and a free first month. And if you don't like it, you can return it at no cost. All you have to do is go to the following: join.whoop.com/MGPP. That's join.whoop.com/MGPP. Mark Glicini Peak Performance, my clients, I trust Whoop. You should too. Enjoy. Let me know how you get on. Now, back to the episode.
So genuinely, thank you very much for flying across the country from San Diego to Florida to be here to do this. I wanted to start off with something I came across recently. Billions of people in this world. Every 1 in 5 Nobel Prize winners had a mentor who also won a Nobel Prize. Just goes to show the power of mentors and coaches and having role models. And I talk about you any chance I get when I'm presenting and different things like that. And you've had that impact on me. So I hope that today, one, I wanted to let you know that, but two, I want to go into your life and the people that influenced you. Let's start here. I remember on a past podcast we had together, you said that your mom told you that you could do anything. Can we go back to that early time in your life where you said she was rehearsing that? She didn't just say it one time. What was that like growing up underneath her?
And thank you for having me at your podcast. It's my pleasure being here. My mom said that throughout my entire life, but especially growing up, that I've always heard very positive and encouraging statements from her, but basically with that idea that you can do anything. And I believe it. I believed her. And I, as an adult, after I finished graduate school, I've never been afraid of trying things that most people would not even entertain, because I believe I could do anything.
I came across, I was just reading, it used to be a bestseller, and I can't believe that I just found it. And if you're okay, I want to read it. It's come from a book called The Road Less Traveled, and has everything to do with what you were just talking about. The time and the quality of the time that their parents devote to them indicate to the children the degree to which they are valued by their parents. Children who are truly loved know themselves to be valued. This knowledge is worth more than gold. For when children truly feel valued, they feel valuable. The feeling of being valuable, I'm a valuable person, is essential to mental health and is a direct product of parental love. Such a conviction must be gained in childhood. It is extremely difficult to acquire during adulthood. Conversely, when children have learned through the love of their parents to feel valuable, it is almost impossible for the vicissitudes of adulthood to destroy their spirit. This feeling of being valuable is a cornerstone of self-discipline, because when one considers oneself valuable, one will take care of oneself in all ways that are necessary. Self-discipline is self-caring. And when I read that, I thought about my childhood. I thought about as I was preparing for this, listening to how much of an effect your mother had on you. And I also just thought about the relationship I had with you as my mentor. And I felt that, like, right from the beginning, this deep belief that you had in me, that I could do amazing things, not just on the lacrosse field, but in life. Where do you feel you developed that ability to coach other people in a way that's so convicted that you get the best results out of your mentees and out of your clients?
I think it's a combination of many different factors. I do think I have the ability to see people's qualities that they may not see in themselves, and identify what those qualities are and give them feedback. I give a lot of feedback to my clients. Most people don't get enough feedback. And in working, my clients are men, professional athletes in their 20s and 30s. And I started noticing how I would give them feedback, and they're always surprised because they never heard that before. So I realized how little feedback people get, especially if they're successful. The more successful people are, the less feedback they get from people. Because maybe people just assume they already know because they're so successful. No, they don't. So I'm really good at identifying people's qualities, giving them feedback. And I've heard from some players that I've worked with that they didn't think they could do certain things, such as complete a college degree, but they did it in ways because I believe in them. I believe they could do it before they could believe in themselves, before they believed they could do it.
It was remarkable when we did our first session together. I was just starting to get to know you. And you said, I've done my homework on you. I've prepared. And you gave me a bunch of feedback. This is what I've learned about you. I actually have used that with the clients that I work with, pointing out the highlights of them, because you're absolutely right. The small amount of words of encouragement that somebody needs. Abe Lincoln once said, I had a best friend who believed in me, and I didn't have the heart to let him down. And even though I read that by The Road Less Traveled, I do believe, and I learned this from you, that beliefs aren't fixed and static. I think that they can change. Could you talk about that? How your beliefs can go from limiting to empowering with the change of thought?
Everything that we do in life, whether we take action towards something or we don't, is based on our belief system. And beliefs are not static. We can change our beliefs by providing more information to our brain about the meaning of something. So a belief system is it's nothing but the meaning that we give to situations. And we usually develop a belief system based on our childhood experience, the home and the family that we grew up in. And we continue to do certain things the same way throughout our lives, even though we're not part of that anymore, without ever questioning, well, this is how we did in our family. This is how my parents did it. This is how my grandparents did it. We continue to repeat those things, thinking, not without even thinking. But some of those beliefs could be what's preventing someone from taking action in a certain direction in their lives that could change everything.
One of the reasons why I wanted to have you back on the podcast is because listeners have said, that was my favorite one. And it's because you talked about making the decision, going for it. You taught them how to set goals on prior podcasts and things like that. But you also brought up the power of pain and pleasure. And we talked about your mother having such an influential pleasure on your life, joy, gratitude, belief in you. And then in your teenage years, there was a little bit more pain. If you're open to it, are you okay going into that part?
Yes. About a year ago, I talked about that for the first time publicly because I choose to be very positive and only focus what's working in life and the positive experience every day and be very grateful about everything. So I just never talked about that. But I had a life-changing experience when I was 18, right before I started college. I was shot And that really changed my life. I thought I was going to die, and it took some time for me to recover from that. But from that day on, every day when I wake up in the morning and I'm alive, it's a great day already. So everything that happens throughout the day, it's a bonus. And I don't think most people don't realize that about their own lives, because you weren't about to die or lose your life. And people, they had so kind of close experience like that to dying, they say the same thing, how much they appreciate just being alive. So I appreciate everything I have, people that are in my life, and everything that I've been able to do and accomplish. And my mission has always been to help people to do the same with their lives.
So one of the most important parts of your story that I feel terrible that we just breezed through was the aspect of you being 18 and you going through a traumatic experience. If it's okay with you, do you mind going in further detail as to what happened?
Yeah, I don't mind. At that time, I lived in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, which, as most people know, has very high crime rate. And we were driving home from our engagement dinner, my ex-husband and I, and we were at a traffic light, which is a very common thing they do in Rio de Janeiro, and we were robbed, we were assaulted by 4 people that came in another car parked next to us, and they came from both sides.
Did you see it coming?
No, you don't, because it's just a traffic light, so there were cars coming anyways. But I think normally people don't even stop at traffic lights anymore because it's so dangerous.
Wow.
So that's not a very uncommon thing to happen in Brazil. And so luckily I got out of the car from the same side as my ex-husband. And he's an athlete and very big, heavyweight in judo. So it's pretty big. He put me behind him. And we started moving away from the cars, and so now they're in 2 cars. They want 2 people in our car, 2 people in the car they came in. And they took everything we had. But when they drove away, they were shooting. So both of us got hit, my ex-husband and I, and we were on the street at that point, no cars. So a taxi came by and took us to the emergency room, which luckily was 2 blocks away.
What's going through your mind at this time?
I thought I was going to die because there was so much blood coming out of my legs. And I had 2 guns pointing at us. I thought I was going to die. But when we spent the night at the hospital. And the next morning, we called our family doctor. He came over, and then he looked at the bullet went through my leg from the back and exit in the front. And he looked at it and he said, "You were born again. Just by a millimeter, you would have died because it didn't hit the artery."
How has that shaped everything you've done?
I think about that a lot. I was given a second chance in life. When my doctor looked at the injury, he was quiet for some time. And then that's what he said. I said, "You were born again." And I never forgot that. I took that with me my entire life from that day on. I was given a second chance. That wasn't my turn yet. And I take it very seriously. I was given a second chance. I'm here to do something important.
You mentioned saying it publicly roughly a year ago. Where was it all this time? Was it buried? Were you using it?
It is. It's a very negative experience. I know a lot of people that have been like in law enforcement or military. They have never been shot. It's not a common
Sure.
situation.
Sure.
right? Even
Yeah.
people that work with guns every day, they have never been shot. So it's not a conversation that you have normally. So, and because it's so difficult, I just never talked about it. I didn't want to be focusing on that. I didn't want that to, define my life and how I live my life. But, and actually, at some point, I forgot about it. I went for so many years without talking about it. I brought this up publicly a year ago, and this happened when I was 18. So I never wanted to be spending time thinking about that. It took me, I didn't leave the house for about 3 months. I was afraid of going outside and running into those people and get killed, which is irrational. But when you go through that, you do have irrational thoughts.
If someone listening has gone through something very similar, would you encourage them to handle it the way you did and not talk about it, or talking about it has helped?
I think it's very personal. I think everybody has their own way of coping with difficult situations in their lives. Some people, I've talked about in therapy. I went to psychology school for 5 years. I was in therapy as part of that. I had group therapy. I had a lot of therapy situations. I talked and I was done. For me, I was done talking about it. I'm not saying you should just repress it. I did talk about it in the right settings for that, but I didn't talk about publicly a lot. Very few people in my life know about it unless they knew me when I was 18. Everybody in my life when I was 18, my whole family, they know about it. But very few people, after those college years, that anybody that I met after that, they don't know about it.
Yeah.
Not that I have a problem with it. I have no problem with that. It's just not. It's not a normal conversation, and it just keeps reminding me of something that I don't need to be reminded
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah.
It's not. I look at it as a very positive experience. Everything in life, there's good and bad about everything. Was it bad? Yeah, it was bad. Was it good? It was great. Because I've learned, and it changed my mind. From that point on, I look at life completely differently. I don't value anything that's material. I don't need to buy anything. I don't need to have anything. I value the people in my life because that was the only thought that came to mind at that moment. There's two guys pointing guns at us, not from a distance, very close. I said, they're going to kill us. So at that moment, the only thoughts I had was my family. I didn't think about anything else. It's the only thing I said, I'm never going to see my family again. That's all. And people say that when people are dying in the hospital bed, the only thing they wish is that they had spent more time with their family. That was the only thought that came to mind. So I value family a lot. I made sure that I spent time with my family. Relationships are very important to me. Professional relationships, personal relationships. I value people in my life. We talk about the mentors. I never forgot anything that any of those mentors have ever done to help me with my career.
Yeah.
I remember everything they've done, and I'm grateful and I appreciate. So I value people in my life. So that was a great experience from that point of view that made me value the things that are really important in life. And I learned that in a hard way, but I learned early enough in life that set the pace for me for the rest of my life. And I never forgot what my doctor said. He said, "You're born again." And I felt, okay, I was being given a second chance. I could have died. I didn't die, so I better do something good with my time and my energy and my education and help people.
Well, thank God. I remember when I had a milestone achievement a few years ago, you sent me this beautiful, expensive poster that says, "Aim for your highest mountain and never forget where you came from." It's beautiful. I still have it hung up. And thank you again for it. But that story reminded me of that, right? Because even though you have such high aspirations and a vision that you're going to complete, you still use your story and you never forget where you came from.
Never forget where you came from. And so you can appreciate everything that you have today.
There might be something about the people who go through the hardest times in their life developing a level of humility that, like, how am I alive? How did that happen? And then they come out the other side with a capacity, a positivity, and optimism. I met you decades after that, and I always just saw, wow, she's such a light. She's so positive. For someone who's listening to this, and during your answer, you said, it was very hard for me for weeks to months, if I listened to you correctly there. And then you recovered and you were positive and you were grateful. Could you go inside the chapter in which it was hard and you weren't going outside? How were you able to recover and get through that time?
Time. Time. I always, when people are going through something very difficult in their lives, like a loss or a breakup or a death in the family, there's only one thing that helps. It's time. You have to allow the time that you need to, to be scared and be uncomfortable and then move on. So I was only 18, so I didn't have any, I wasn't doing anything specifically, on purpose, but I think it's my nature to be positive, to always look at the good things in life and always appreciate what I have and be grateful. And I think one of the biggest changes that I noticed, like, I'm not attached to anything that's material. Because at the moment when I thought I was going to die, the only thoughts that came to my mind were the people in my life. I didn't think about anything else. And that gave me a better understanding about what's really important in life. And to me, it's the people, our family, the people, friends, people that we have in our lives. But I think time is what helps people overcome anything that's that painful and difficult.
To provide some healthy friction, because someone who now travels and speaks to different groups, I'm always looking to put myself in the headspace of who I'm about to be speaking to. And someone who just listened to that part, time, okay. There's someone listening to this and they're going through a hard time and they're almost yelling at the screen, but Dr. Cristina Versari, it's been enough time. It's been 4 weeks, 4 years, and they have a hard time getting through it. Speaking to that person directly, what would you say to them? The ones that are struggling and saying time is not enough.
It's the mindset also. You can choose to go through a negative experience and be miserable for the rest of your life, or you can choose to go through the same negative experience and turn things around and make your life better than ever. It's a choice that we make. You decide what you're going to focus on. Every day in front of us, there are good and bad things. We can focus on all the negative things and feel terrible and feel depressed and have anxiety. Or we can focus on the positive things that we have been able to accomplish that day, people that we have been able to help. I think helping others always, for me, has been very helpful. My life has been about helping others. So that's one thing that takes you out of your own problems to go help someone else that has problems, sometimes a lot worse than your own problems. But helping others, helping people change their lives has always been, to me, a way to be appreciative about everything that we have.
A few things come to mind. The first would be on the word decide. I learned recently that it comes from the Latin meaning to cut away. So it's not to actively choose something, but what are you willing to shed and get rid of? So when NASA sends a spaceship into orbit, it actually sheds and sends a part of itself to come back so it can go higher. And I think about that a lot in peak performance and high performance. It's not always adding things, but it's removing the limiting belief, removing the extra fat from your life, and removing the bad habits from your life. But I think about that word decide, and it's not necessarily exactly what it is, but you have to get rid of some things in order to move on to the next chapter. And then when you talked about it's your mindset, the short parable that I'll make even shorter is about the two twin brothers that grow up with an alcoholic father. And the journalist asked one of them later on, how come you became an alcoholic? And he said, with a father like mine, what do you expect? And the other brother is asked by the same journalist, why did you not have a drop of alcohol? And he replies, with a father like mine, what do you expect? So it is the mindset
Exactly.
that you bring and the
Yes.
choice that you choose.
Yeah.
I would love for you to go more into the helping others, because I've always been inspired by the way you take on projects. And you founded San Diego University for Integrative Studies. You founded a university. You've helped people in a crisis center. You've helped NBA players. Where did you get that heart posture to help other people? Like, yes, you're pointing to the fact that it's a mindset, but you have every reason to be bitter if you look at some of your part of your story, but you choose to help people get better instead.
I think every day we have to make those choices. Every day when you wake up, you make a decision how you're going to go through that day. You can look at everything that's good in your life and you can enjoy and you can share that with others. You can help others, or you can be negative about the things you don't like and not feel very good about your life. So it's all about choices that we make. We all have that opportunity to make decisions every single day about how we're going to spend our time, who we're going to be with, which is also another very important factor. Decide who you're going to be involved with. You have to be always around people that are doing better than yourself. If you're in a group of people that are negative, they're complaining all the time, there's not a lot for you to benefit from. And gravity is automatic.
Right.
So people can take you down very easily.
Yeah.
So you have to choose your friends. You need to choose who you're going to spend time with.
Right.
If you are in a work environment where people are negative, they're gossiping, they're backstabbing coworkers, that's not a good environment. You need to eliminate people that are doing that, or you need to remove yourself
Right.
from that environment. So those are decisions that we have to make every single day. Who do we want to be around? Who do we want to associate ourselves with? Having a business, I think about this every single day. And at one point, we had about 80 employees at the university and about 25 that I interact with every single day. And one of the messages to them always has been, we spend a lot of time at work. If you think about how many hours a day people spend at work every single day, compared to the rest of the time we have, the hours that you're sleeping, and the rest of them, there's not a lot of many hours left. So I say, so the workplace has to be a place that you really enjoy going to.
Right.
And we have to make this work environment a very pleasant place that people enjoy being here, that you enjoy being around each other, that you enjoy helping students. And we were very fortunate, but I picked people very carefully. I used the personality profile, and we had a great work environment. And anytime that somebody would be doing what I just said, creating a very negative work environment, something toxic, backstabbing coworkers, the staff would come to me and say, this person doesn't belong here. And that person didn't belong there. I would get rid of them very quickly, because it's very easy to bring one negative person to a group of 25 people, and that one person can make the environment toxic.
Right.
So we need to pay attention to that. It sounds like a small thing, or that you have no control over, but you have 100% control over where you go, where you work, and who you spend your time with. And that's really going to shape, a lot of times how you feel about yourself and how you feel about your life.
I'm going to ask you a question to see if you remember. When you and I first met, you said, you don't need me. Like, you don't need me. Do you remember what I said I wanted?
Experience.
Your experience.
You wanted my experience.
And I'm so glad you got that. And there's so many coaches, parents, and leaders that listen to Grateful and Full of Greatness. And one of the things that I want to ask you, based on your experience, is in your creation of that environment that is healthy, uplifting, optimistic probably, what do the people you tend to hire have in common? What are the common threads that they have, the qualities that they have of your best people that you've ever worked with?
So to make a decision about who to hire, it's directly related to the type of work they're going to be doing. So it may not apply to a lot of different work settings, but in our case, which was a university, we want employees that care about people. They enjoy interacting with people. So according to the Myers-Briggs type indicator, which is the test that we use, they're called feelers. So people that are very sensitive, their number one motivation in life is to help others. So it's already part of their personality. And that's their nature. They don't have to be trained to do that. That's how they have always been. So that's one factor. Another one, because they're going to interact with students all day long, they need to be extrovert. Extroverts love talking to people, interacting with people. They like to make phone calls. They enjoy that. That's already their nature. We don't have to train them to be that way. They enjoy doing that by nature. And they have to be organized. They have to work with little supervision and plan their days and organize their work. So those factors are already by nature in those personality types. So most of our employees have very similar personality type that brings that into the workplace. So we don't have to train them on that.
Right.
So we have to train them on policies, procedures, regulations, which is easy. Those things are very easy to train people on. And within a few months, people can become very proficient in those areas.
I don't think I realized how big temperament and personality played a role until I met you. You know, it was always just like training. You could be trained to do anything. But I heard James Clear as part of the end, or I don't even think it made into the book of Atomic Habits. He said grit comes from fit. So what he was saying is if you have the right personality and it fits a certain role, you will have more grit. You'll have more perseverance inside of that. So I didn't really realize just how much personality created somebody's personal reality, and that's how they looked at the world.
And that applies to sports a lot. And very few people have studied the personality profile of athletes. And when I start working for the NBA, I had to give the players the test, the Myers-Briggs type indicator, to help them decide what they're going to do as a second career. But over the years, I had so much data. I still have a lot of data, and I became very curious about the patterns. I love patterns. If you watch patterns, you can figure things out, and it can help you make decisions as a coach, as a teacher, as a parent. So I noticed that most NBA players are 3 out of 16 different types. So it became clear that sports, like careers, attract certain type of personality. So there was no studies on that. So I was curious. I wanted to expand. So I tested 22 different sports. And it's very consistent. Every sport attracts a certain type of personality. So swimmers have the opposite personality type of NBA players.
Wow.
Lacrosse players are 100% the opposite of the NBA players. Every single letter of their type is different, it's the opposite. The lacrosse players are very extroverts. They're feelers. They're very intuitive and creative. And their perceiving type, they have to go with the flow. It's the fastest game I've ever seen. It's really hard to watch and keep track of what's happening because it's so fast. And professional lacrosse players have the highest graduation rate in the United States compared to any other professional sports. So the intuitive feelers are also the college students. That's the personality type of students. The typical college students are intuitive feelers. Teachers are intuitive feelers, psychologists. So they're very educated. They do very well in schools, and they choose to go to very nice universities.
What's coming to my mind, even as we were preparing for this, and a lot of psychologists I've heard out there give pushback to the Myers-Briggs because it's like, oh, you can't use it for performance enhancement because it doesn't say good or bad. But I like that it clusters together, that there's patterns. I like that you can see different tendencies. And one of the things that I learned from you on the Myers-Briggs is your personality type is correlated to the types of problems that you have in your life. How if you're very extroverted, you'll talk over to people. If you're very introverted, yes, you're self-reliant. However, you have trouble communicating at times how you feel. So it was pretty interesting to see how the problems that they have are also correlated with their personality type. Could you talk to me about how you created some objective measurement for the MBA, because you felt or thought at the time that psychology was some pie in the sky, a bunch of ideas, but there wasn't objective things for the players to use. What made you decide to use Myers-Briggs for performance enhancement? Because from my knowledge, you were the first person to ever do that.
Right. So the psychologists don't like the Myers-Briggs, and they don't use the Myers-Briggs because it doesn't test pathology. So psychology uses the same disease model that medicine uses. Yeah. So you're either healthy or you're sick. Yeah. So, but the Myers-Briggs, there's no good or bad personality type. There's just different types. And it's used for career counseling. So it doesn't test IQ. It doesn't test pathology. And that's the good thing about the Myers-Briggs, because it makes a very friendly test. People love to see the test results, and that allows, in terms of where we can use the test, it has really opened a lot of possibilities, because not testing pathology, people are comfortable sharing their personality type, so you can use for team building. And I start watching the patterns, and I say, okay, now I know the personality type of a team, so I know what the typical basketball team looks like. So if there's a player that's an atypical type, so what happens? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? So again, I watch the patterns, and the best players in the NBA, they have an atypical type. They don't have the most common type that I found among NBA players. They have a different type. That's what makes them outstanding. Right. Because when you are an atypical type in a field, you do something new. So they're creative. They come up with something new. They do something different that no one else has ever done in basketball. So the star players are atypical types. And then so I started doing team building. So by people understand each other's personality types, how you communicate, how you perform better, and what each person needs to perform at their best, they can play better as a team. And I started using that with the Brazilian national men's Olympic and national basketball team. And it was a great experience, because they had a player that everybody, when I started working with them, everybody on the coaching staff approached me individually to complain about that player. So you're going to have a problem with this person, he's a problem. And I didn't know the team or the coaching staff. So after the third one said that, I said, how long has he been on the team? And they said, 12 years. And I'm thinking, if somebody is a problem, why are you keeping the person on the team for this long?
Right.
And that was when the statement that you like, our qualities and our weaknesses are the same. So when I finally met the player, he told me, he said, everybody complains about me. So he already knew that. But when the team is losing, they send me out there. And that's the key. Yeah. So our qualities and weaknesses are the same. So this is a player that's creative, troubleshooter. He was an atypical type. He was one of the best players on the team. And the player that they relied on when they needed somebody to play under pressure. Yeah. Now, in practice, he was bored. Because during the game, when he needed to help the team win, he came up with solutions. He had ideas. He was very creative, had a lot of ideas. And he was able to try new ideas under pressure. The majority of the players in a basketball team, they'll try something that they've done before and they know it works. They won't try anything new under pressure during the game. They have to practice over and over and over. Then they're comfortable, then they'll use it during the game. But this player didn't need that because he was very creative, very intuitive. But he was bored in practice. These are the players that are uncoachable. Anybody who is coached and you have a player like that, they're uncoachable. You tell the team, this is what I want you to do, and those players are going to say, what about this? And can we try this other thing? What about that?
Yeah.
Because they have ideas.
Yes.
They want to try something because they're bored. So again, the great player during game, under pressure, not a good player in practice.
Right.
So once we did a team building session talking about those differences and the qualities and when they can be better utilized, the other players on the team stopped complaining about him, and he stopped struggling. Because when everybody's complaining about you, you're struggling to be okay, to feel okay, to do what they're trying, to have you do, but you don't want to do that. So it's a struggle.
Yeah.
And that player, he approached me and he said, this is the first time in my life that I felt okay. And to put this into perspective, he was a medical doctor. He had a medical doctor, very successful. But that's how important personality type can be. And that's how important feedback is.
So important.
But this is a guy, he stayed on the team for all those years with people complaining about him. He knew they were complaining behind his back. They all complain about me.
Yeah.
That can be good for your self-esteem and
Sure.
But when he understood it's his personality type and realized the qualities, the entire team, they stopped complaining about him and said, you need him.
Right.
You know that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything. I didn't tell them anything they didn't know.
Yeah.
It's just explaining the pattern. Right? You have been bringing him to play internationally in the Olympics and all the championships. Why?
Yeah.
Because you need him.
Right. The number one thing, and I think this goes for anybody who brings psychology training into their life, it makes you curious rather than furious. Rather than being judgmental about what's going on, you finally understand and you have awareness. Carl Jung once said, unless you make the unconscious conscious, it'll direct your life and you'll call it fate. And many people refuse to look. They don't want to understand deeper. Okay, this player's just a problem. They're kind of annoying. I'm irritated by them. Or you can be curious, because all cures come from curiosity. And when you have that curiosity, you can say, oh, I see their strengths now, right? Because this goes for, I'm going to go back to the extroversion versus introversion, but an extrovert can easily see an introvert as standoffish. And an introvert can easily see the extroverted person as loud and obnoxious, right? But if you view it just in that lens, you're going to be furious. The last comment I'll make is the more you train your body, the more it does for you. The more you train your mind, the less it gets in your way. That's kind of what I've realized. So I want to jump back into your life because in the same way you've poured knowledge into me, you've had some amazing mentors along your way too. And as you were talking, what came to my mind is how you love to solve problems. You're project oriented. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe his name was Sanders, who helped you understand problem solving and a way to ask what the problems are and to go in that direction to solve them. Do you mind going on that thread and talking about that?
Yeah. When I started working for the NBA, Tom Sanders was my boss. And I really admired him. He's extremely intelligent, had a lot of experience as a player, as a coach, and at that time as one of the administrators for the NBA education program. And I just love spending time with him and asking him questions because I've always been very curious about him and very interested in solving problems and finding solutions. And he always had excellent feedback because he had so much experience. Like you said, that's what you liked, to get from me, and that's what I like to get from him. And we had a conversation one time, and he said, when you approach a team, ask the coach, what problem do you have that you haven't been able to solve? And if you solve that problem, you're in. You become indispensable to that person because they couldn't figure out how to solve that problem. And I did that every time I work with the team because I wanted to solve the problem. I don't want to just be part of, whatever was going on there without bringing something new.
Yeah.
So I've always asked coaches, what problem do you have that you haven't been able to solve? And they would tell me, they know right away. They don't have to think. They tell you immediately
Sure.
what that is.
Sure.
Work on that. If you're a sports psychologist, if you're a mental training coach, or if you're an assistant coach, ask your head coach, what problem do you have with the team that you haven't been able to solve?
And I don't think it's just sports. Or, what's coming to my mind is I heard Dr. Gabor Mate say you can hurt another individual in two ways, by physically or verbally hurting them intentionally, or knowing their needs and not giving it to them. And I thought that's what comes to mind when you talk about in sports, you just have to ask what the problems are, but that just goes for life in general. This could be for business, this could be for relationships, this could be for friendships, just understanding what they need most and then being able to provide that. And there's that reciprocity inside of it. So I don't think it's just sport.
Yeah, I agree. I've always believed in finding role models. When you have a goal, if you're trying to accomplish something, find someone that has done that. They have accomplished the same thing that you want. And ask them, how did you go about? What's your recipe to success? Successful people, they have recipes. They can tell you step by step how they did it and how you can do it. And most people that are successful, they love to share that. So I've always went to my mentors and I asked them, how do you do this? One time I wanted to write a book and I asked one of my mentors, how do you write a book? He had 20 books. How do you do it?
Yeah.
And he told me, and I realized at the moment that's not going to work for me. Because he was very intuitive, very creative. And he said he would write anytime, anywhere. If he was waiting at a doctor's office, he was right. And I said, I can't do that. I need half a day just to focus because I'm extrovert and I'm not intuitive.
Yeah.
So it also helps you to change your approach.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. So my approach has to be completely different than that. So you learn to make decisions and helps you to get closer or further away from your goals. And then you change your approach, change your goals, do something different.
This episode is brought to you by Thorne Health Tech. Which company do you trust when it comes to your health? Thorne Health Tech provides over 190 supplements and products necessary to avoid deficiencies and optimize mental acuity, holistic health, speed, strength, and conditioning. For years, I've taken their amino complex, whey protein, and elite multi AM and PM vitamins. I'm proud to represent Thorne. Why? Because their quality of products is the highest, as well as purity and potency of every supplement. They're backed by the Mayo Clinic. The raw materials that go into the supplements are NSF certified for sport, as well as tested and retested to meet Olympic standards. So if you're looking to optimize your performance and get to the next level, whether it's to meet your protein thresholds or just optimize holistically, trust Thorne. To get started, enter your email and enjoy 25% off at thorne.com/u/Mark Glicini. That's thorne.com/u/Mark Glicini. Enjoy. Now, back to the episode.
What I was looking for in my notes, and this comes from the book, The Lion Tracker's Guide to Life on page 10. The quote is, "To me, a master is anyone who can be themselves in any situation." I think it's remarkable in your story, the range that you have. You've worked with Olympians, elite clientele, NBA players, and at the same time, you've worked at a crisis center. So you have this range. And a lot of what you've taught me has come from that crisis center as well. And you have great lessons that you learned inside of that. If you're open to it, do you mind talking about how people are just people, and whether it's the Crisis Center or the Olympians, similar problems, and then Bob McCurdy, who played such an influential
I
role
love to
there?
talk about that because it was such a learning experience for me. I was working with psychiatric patients at a psychiatric crisis facility where the admission criteria was to be suicidal or homicidal. And most of them have lost everything they had in their lives. They've lost their relationships, their marriage, their job, their home. Many of those people are homeless. And I worked there for many years, and I've learned so much from working with a very difficult client population, extremely difficult to work with. And I learned so much from that experience that I applied to my work to this day, and I've shared a lot of that with you.
Yeah.
But one thing that I've learned that was fascinating to me, my last day at that job was on a Thursday. The next day, Friday, was my first day meeting with an NBA player. And that player conversation with me was very similar to the conversation I've had the day before with a client from the psychiatric crisis center. And I was so surprised, and I realized, people are the same. It doesn't matter who you are. We have the same problems. We tend to have this idea that someone that's extremely successful doesn't have problems. They have problems like everybody else. They have bad days. They have days they don't want to get out of bed. We all have bad days. And the difference is how you deal with it. You get up and you go do what you need to do anyways. So it's how you handle things in life that's different. And that leads to someone being more successful than other people. But we all have the same problems, which is a scary thought. Because my daughter was going to have a surgery one time, and I met with this surgeon, and I had that in mind. I said, people have the same problems. So I asked him questions like, what, are you best like early in the morning or later in the day? So I asked him questions that no one else ever asked him, because he said that we need to get there at 4 a.m. to have surgery at 6. And I don't function at 6 a.m. It's too early for me because I'm a night person. So I with that in mind, and everybody's the same. People, the surgeon has the same problems that everybody else has. Which, as I'm saying, it's a scary thought when you think about if you're going to have, a surgery or something that your life is in someone else's hands, and they have the same problem that everybody else. They could be having a bad day.
Yeah.
So, but it's a good understanding about the realities of professional athletes.
Yeah.
And that allowed me from day one to see the players as a person. And that was key for me to work with them for so many years, and still doing that today, is to see them as a person. And as a person that has problems like everybody else. And I know this has contributed to them trusting me. Well, I think my biggest accomplishment in working with professional athletes is to have their trust, because they don't trust anyone. That's another question there's another experience I've had. I learned that from them, and I ask everybody that I work with, how many people do you have in your life that you can trust? And it takes a while for them to answer. It's not an easy question. They have to think very, very hard. And it's one or two people. And then you see professional athletes, how many people they have around them all the time. They don't trust anybody. And I have their trust. So that was my biggest accomplishment.
How do you do it?
Treating them as a person. I don't talk about sports. I don't ask for autograph. I don't ask for ticket. I talk to them like I talk to anybody else. And they don't get that very often. That's one. The second one is do what I say. If I say I'll meet you at the hotel after practice at a certain time, I've always been there, no matter what. I have never missed one appointment.
Is that your personality, or you worked on that?
No, that's my nature. I was like that before. I've always been that way. I'm here today.
If you're okay with me, I want to click on it. As you were talking about Thursday coming to Friday in the crisis center and them having similar issues, it sounded to me that you got a little bit of emotional, and you're not a very emotional person. Why did that make you emotional in that moment?
It was a surprise for me. It was really, I didn't expect that. I thought I'm working with this, people would say sick population to the healthiest population in our culture. And I realized that's not the case.
Yeah.
We all have problems. We all have similar problems. So in psychology, to me, the mental health, it's on a continuum. So there's no such a thing, I'm healthy and you're not, or you're sick, or you're ill. It's on a continuum. So here's illness, mental illness, and this is health. Under a certain amount of pressure and stress, anybody can go to the other side.
Yeah.
And that's why we see people that they say, I never imagined this person could kill themselves. And then how did that happen? So you have to look at other factors. What was going on in their lives at the time? What kind of pressure were they under?
Yeah.
So anybody can go to the other side. And I've learned, at that moment, that people what's the difference between the healthiest people in our culture, which is professional athletes. Everybody wants to be like them.
Right.
And I was working with the people at the lowest place in our culture, and they had the same problems.
Yeah.
So that was a huge learning experience for me.
I share this as often as I can. C.S. Lewis has the best definition of friendship I've ever come across. And it's, what? You too? I thought I was the only one. And that sort of idea that we're all similar.
Yeah.
And relationships are where we go to relate, and how it's about finding common ground to go to higher ground together. And it doesn't matter who you are. I want to go into what might seem like a darker thing, but Bruce Ogilvy, and you shared with me earlier, which when you told me this, I was like, I hope that is not true. And that was human beings sometimes or all the time detest other people's success.
Yeah.
Could you course correct me there or elaborate on that line?
Yeah. That was the first time that I thought about that, was when Dr. Bruce Ogilvy shared that with me. And he said, he was talking about athletes that he worked with. He was always very generous about sharing his experience. He was a wonderful mentor. And he said, no one is happy for an athlete that's successful, or anybody that's making a lot of money and is doing better than themselves. And he said, that's human nature. Humans detest other people's success. And I started paying attention to that, and I agree with him. I saw that in working with athletes, the problem they had, people that they thought were friends and they could count on them, and how they changed because the athletes didn't want to give them money. So no one is happy about other people's success. They feel entitled. They feel that they should be the ones making more money. They're not happy for people that are making more and doing better than themselves. Again, let's go back to be careful who you associate yourself with.
I used to believe that when you looked at relationships, it was either transactional or transformational. That's how it was talked to me about, or told me, shared with me when I was growing up. And then I realized that more or less all relationships are transactional. And if you choose to go deeper, it can become transformational, and you can have that deeper layer. What do you think it takes to go to that next level? Is it just holding space and listening for the person? Do you need the invitation for them to allow you to come deeper? Or why is it that so many professional athletes don't have that trust with more than just a few people?
I was going to say what it takes, I think trust. When they trust someone. And what does it take to trust? A consistency and continuity. Say what you think and do what you say. These are the people we trust. People that say what they think and they do what they say. You can count on them. If they say, I'll meet you there such a day at this time, they'll be there. You know that.
Yeah.
You don't have to confirm.
Mm-hmm.
You know they're going to be there.
Right.
And when they're there, they're available. They'll listen to you. That's another thing that I've learned at the crisis center. People sometimes they just want to be heard. They want someone that can listen to them. Because I had experience with clients that needed to talk, and I let them talk, and they would say, you're the best therapist I've ever had. And I knew I said very little. So the therapeutic process for them to change was somebody that they could trust just to listen to them. And that they know they can count on that person.
Stephen Sondheim, the great musical composer, when somebody asked him, how do you create such great music? He said, I listen. And I think that this field obviously has tuned down my extroversion. And I go on a quest, which comes from asking better questions with clients and understanding. And I gather information so I can get my next words and actions information. But that kind of curiosity is where you kind of hunt and gather more information rather than always be talking. One of the things that I thought was fascinating when you and I first met is you had that traumatic situation when you were 18 years old, and so did I. I stress fractured my spine, and my mom went through cancer at 18 years old. And you said this beautiful faith-based line to me, Mark, I feel like I'm guided. And what role does faith play in all of this, right? Your willingness to leave Brazil, come to America, and then serve at the level that you're doing.
I grew up in a very religious family, very Catholic, and in a very religious country. I think more than 90% of the population in Brazil is Catholic. So people pray at school, public schools. They pray every event that you go, you pray. So it's there's not a big difference between nationality and the religion in Brazil. If you're Brazilian, there's a good chance you're Catholic. And there's churches everywhere. You can walk into any church anywhere you're at, it's a Catholic church. So religion was a big part of my life. Growing up, I went to Catholic school. My daughters went to Catholic school. And it's not something that it requires a lot of planning. It's just part of your life, and it's part of who you are. So you pray every day. You pray before your meals. You go to church. It's part of life. That's where you meet your friends, because everybody else is there. So it's part of life. And so I'm very spiritual. And there's things in my life that have happened that I know I had to work really hard to get there. But there's also a lot of moments in my life that I believe I was guided. And I think it was by my grandmother after she passed away.
What's the reason you point to her?
Because she was very religious, and she had a huge impact in my life. My grandmother was a very strong person. She raised 8 children by herself. My grandfather died when she was 38. So she had 8 children at that point, and she was running a small hotel at the same time. This was in the 30s and 40s. So there's not a lot of people that were capable of doing that at that time. And so she was always extremely religious. So we were all very influenced by her, I think. Not, I don't think I'm the only one in the family. I think most of my generation was influenced by her.
Right. One of the things that I've obviously noticed about you, but even when Dr. Nick Molinaro introduced your name to me, and anybody who talks about you, they know your work ethic and you're such a hard worker, and it's like a huge part of your life. You get things done. Where is the line between working versus the resting? Right. I'm always trying to find that balance between relaxation and complacency. Like where is it, and how do you know when to let go and let God, or work it out yourself, or both?
Mm-hmm. When I meet my childhood friends and they were talking, they ask me, "What do you do when you're not working?" And I tell them what I do when not working. They said, "That sounds like more work." So my life is very structured. Like when I'm not working, I'm swimming, I'm hiking, I'm doing other things.
Yeah.
They're also not very easy for most people.
Yeah.
And I love to work. So for me, taking time off, I do because I know it's necessary and for health reasons. I don't see clients and I don't work with people if I'm not healthy, if I'm not well. I only see people when I'm well. So I have to take care of myself and I have to be healthy so that I can be of help to people, to my clients.
Yeah.
So I do more for those reasons
Yeah.
because I love to work.
Yeah.
I can easily work 14 hours a day and enjoy it because I like projects.
Right.
I always have a new project
Right.
going on. And there's always a lot of people involved, and there's always helping others
Right.
involved in the projects. So I enjoy working. There's not a big difference between a day off and a work day for me.
Yeah. The thought leader Naval says that. He says, find what to most people looks like work, but to you is play, and then you'll be passionate in your work, and you've found
Yeah,
something.
I love what I do.
You've loved sports psychology for
I
many,
love what
many
I
years.
do.
So let's go into sports psychology. One of the things that I feel you're on a mission to do is not just change the world, but change the world through sports psychology, and change sports psychology and put a dent in the field. Could I ask you about that? What do you see as incorrect or not hitting the mark in sports psychology, and what do you think needs to be changed about the field?
Mm-hmm. One of the reasons I opened the university was to teach sports psychology. After working with the MBA, I realized that most of what I have read in the sports psychology books did not match reality. So there's a huge gap between what's in the books and what I heard and learned from my clients. And we need to not have that anymore. So, and that was years ago. And 2 years ago, I went to a conference and nothing has changed. I said, they're talking about the same thing they were talking about years ago. Nothing has changed. And I think the problem is because most of the sports psychology programs came out of the physical education department. So they're exercise science programs where people learn to teach and do research. And when they go work with athletes, they don't know what to do. So I get phone calls from graduate students, people that have just completed their doctorate degrees in sports psychology, asking me if they can do an internship with me, if there's any way they can learn from me, because they don't know what to do with clients. So they've done a lot of research, they read a lot of books, they took a lot of midterm exams, final exams, they passed, they have a doctorate degree now, but it's not applied. They didn't learn applied psychology. So that was the reason I opened the school many years ago, was to teach professionals how to work with athletes, because there wasn't any school teaching applied psychology.
Right.
Some, they call themselves applied, but if you look at the material that's been used, it's not. Then the sports psychology books are written by professors that work at major universities who also don't work with athletes. They have no applied experience. So their books are written based on their research done at the universities with students that play sports. So the percentage of athletes that make to the professional level that comes out of the college is very small. I was doing the Myers-Briggs type indicator with an all-star team from the university from the East Coast one time when they were playing against the Brazilian national team. So I asked the coach if I could test his players, and he said yes. And I said, we can do a team building session. And their personality type was the opposite of the basketball player, all of them. And I was so confused because I've never seen anything like that. So I asked the players, I said, how long have you been playing? And are you planning to go into the NBA and play professionally? I said, oh, no, I just won my scholarship. So I asked another player, tell me a little bit about your background and your plans. They said, oh, I'm just playing to get through college. I have no intention of playing after basketball. So I realized the data that we have that was used to create the sports psychology books and the literature is from research that was done with students that played sports. So that's not a typical athlete.
Right.
And when I started working with the actual athletes, I couldn't believe the gap. What the players were telling me they needed, they were telling me about the problems they have, was very different than what was in the textbooks. I don't use any textbook for my class. I have been teaching graduate students for many years now, and I don't use textbook. I cannot find one book that provides reliable information about athletes and sports psychology and what to do to help athletes. I need to write that book. I haven't had a chance yet.
Too many projects.
Yeah, that's a new project. So what I'm working on a project like that right now. I wanted to bring together the people in the field of sports psychology to one place. Sports psychologists have not done a very good job marketing themselves. People are starting to understand that the work of a sports psychologist is important. But one, they don't know where to find a good sports psychologist. And the most sports psychologists, they're out, available, they haven't had the proper training. So I'm working on a project we're going to launch in about 3 to 4 months, where people can get proper training, and also parents, coaches, organizations can find sports psychologists that have been trained through an applied approach to sports psychology.
Super exciting. For listeners, I love the applied side that you provide. So could you offer two-part advice? One for the students who are just playing sports, they don't necessarily need to be an athlete. Where would you have them start? They want to train their mind. They want to get to sports psychology. Are there 2 or 3 things you could give them so that they could further their mental training?
Okay, so I think the basic thing that anybody, athletes or non-athletes, parents, anybody can benefit from is to set goals. We talk about goal setting as a very simple thing. You ask, like, beginning of the year, like January right now, people set goals for the year, right? Yeah. You can ask, what are your goals for this year? They'll list 2 or 3 things. Oh, this year I want this, and that. But they don't have a plan. So when you just have a list of goals, those are wishes. They become actual goals when you have an action plan. So what's going to determine whether you accomplish something or not are the actions that you're going to take towards that. So set goals and come up with an action plan. What are the actions that you're going to take? They're going to get you closer to those goals. And then have your list of all those actions every day. I do the night before. Every night I have my list for the next day. Have your list of actions. Anything that must be done, those are A, priorities, that must be done the next day and it's non-negotiable. Then the B, priorities, are things that would be nice to do, but it's okay if you move to the next day. And the C, they're not that important. They're in your list whenever you have a chance to get to that. Yeah. But set do a list and set priorities, A, B, and C, and do it.
Wonderful.
You have our actions are going to determine whatever level of success we have in life, in anything, school, relationships, work, physical fitness, health.
And then I'll take it one step and go into the athletic side of it. So say you have an athlete or a team, which usually is they have their goals. They know what they want to win that season, and they have to be at a certain place at a certain time. What about appropriate advice for the athlete that's listening to this? All right, so not just someone, right, but someone who wants to get better in a certain craft. What advice would you give for them?
Find a role model. Find someone, so once you decide what you want to accomplish, find someone that has accomplished what you're trying to accomplish and ask them, how did you do that? They will tell you step by step how they did it. And if you follow those steps, you probably will get the same results. It's very simple, but most people don't want it. It's not easy. It's simple, but it requires discipline. It requires consistency, continuity. You don't build muscles by going to work out 3 times and stop.
Yeah.
You have to go consistently over years.
Right.
It takes a long time, and most people don't want to do what's difficult.
Going back to what I said at the beginning of this, and I read the passage from The Road Less Traveled, and the idea that feeling valuable means that I'm someone who should take care of myself, therefore I find the discipline. What role does belief play in that? Like, how important is my belief that I'm a valuable person that deserves great things, that deserves a role model, that it deserves the accomplishment of those goals? Because most people listening might say to themselves, that's very nice, but that's too intense. Every single day, I have to have discipline like that? You want me to check off a list every single day? Like, when do I get to relax? What role does belief play in all of this?
I think the people that are successful, they don't even question that. They already have a belief system that supports their goals. It's not questionable. They don't question it. Should I do this or should I do that? They make a list. They have very clear goals. They have a roadmap. They know it's going to take a long time. And they do what it takes every single day. They set their priorities. They don't waste time. They don't spend time with friends going to bars and drinking. They have a very set schedule. They go to bed early. They eat healthy. They work out. They study. They learn. So it's not, they don't question.
Right.
It's just already, they decide.
Right.
They have already decided at some point. And you see that even in children.
Yeah.
I have young players that I work with, 9, 10, 11. They're so focused. And I'm so impressed with them because they're young and they're so focused.
Yeah.
They know exactly what they want.
Right.
This is what I want. And they make a list. They know what they want. They know it's going to be hard, and they know their lives is different than their friends. Because they spend, I'm very impressed by student athletes, especially when they're young, because they spend so many hours in school.
Yeah.
And then they have to train like a swimmer. They're at the pool at 5 a.m. Training. Then they go to school. Then they're at the pool again at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
Then they got to come home. They got to eat, do their homework, and go to sleep. And then on the weekends, they have meets. They're competing.
Right.
That's very impressive.
Right.
There's a lot of people that couldn't do that for 1 week, every single day.
Yeah.
But they are very focused. They have parents that are very focused. They have good role models. It's the personality type. It's the belief system they already have from growing up in certain types of families.
Yeah.
That's their nature. That's what everybody's going to do in that family.
Yeah.
So it's the environment.
Yeah, it comes back to that again, doesn't it?
The environment, the influence that they have. And they don't question. People that are successful, they don't question every day, should I go work out today or skip today and then go work out tomorrow. They don't question.
Right.
Because your brain is always going to take you in the direction that's easier and it's less painful. You talked about the pain and pleasure principle
Yes.
earlier. So our brain is going to drive us in the direction that's easier and it's less painful and it's more fun.
Yeah.
It's so easy to go have fun with your friends and play and go drink and do other things. That's easy.
Yeah.
So the brain can very easily go in that direction, take you in that direction instead of the things that are more difficult and hard, and you have to do that consistently. You don't see results overnight.
Right.
So, but successful people, they don't negotiate.
Right.
They don't negotiate with themselves. They decide and they don't question, should I do this or should I go out with my friends? That's not an option.
Yeah.
So they have that's why I always keep going back to decide. Once people decide they're going to do something, they do it.
Right.
And they don't need people to encourage them. They can do that for themselves. We all have that choice. And you see people that say for years they want to do something and they never do it, but then something happened in their lives, and at that moment they decide.
They decide.
And it changes everything.
Yeah. You know, what's coming to my mind is that line, it's not important enough. So I hope that we can go to that. A good acronym for focus is follow one course until successful. And I think I love how maybe 5 times so far since we've been talking about, you talked about the importance of environment. I mean, I learned from a serial entrepreneur, Daniel Priestley. He often says, environment dictates performance. Environment dictates performance. So you want to go around other like-minded people, like-valued people who are on a mission just like you. And when you find yourself surrounded by people that are on a mission, it's easier to be on a mission as well, because that's the normal behavior. And we're homeostatic creatures. We want to do what's normal. Inside of all of this, whether you learned it from someone or you and I just talk about it, leaders walk alone. Many societies and cultures have sayings such as, the nail above the rest is the first to get hammered. The spouting whale gets harpooned. The poppy seed that grows above the rest is the first to get cut. So there's a courage in standing out. Many people might want to go back to the norm because they might get made fun of, or they might have to deal with outside criticism. So could you unpack leaders walking alone? Because I don't think it's necessarily easy, like you pointed to.
So there's 2 factors about that. And in most cases, those are people that have very high IQ. They're extremely intelligent. And they are doing things that are very different than everybody else around them. So they're ahead in many ways. They're advancing their education to the highest level they can. They are engaging in some type of work that requires a lot of their time, working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, because they're very clear about what they are trying to accomplish. Yeah. And it's very lonely, because it's hard when you look around, people that we grew up with, so those successful people, they look around the people they grew up with, very few people are doing what they are doing. And when you're younger, you start wondering, and then there's pressure from people. Why don't take it easy? Why you work so hard?
Yeah.
We don't need to do that. Let's go out, have fun. Let's go on a trip. So there's all these people that don't have the same vision, don't have the same goals, and especially against the environment that we grew up in. And so those people feel very lonely, because what they're doing, there's not a lot of people around them doing the same. And there's a lot of pressure for them not to be trying so hard and working so hard.
How have you dealt with it in your own life?
I've learned that I don't need to have that many friends. I also don't have that much time to spend doing the thing. I don't enjoy doing the things that most people spend time doing, they can't wait to be doing. I don't enjoy those activities. So it was not that hard for me to say no. And that's probably the one thing you have to learn. You have to say no more than yes. So I found myself turning down invitations for many different things. So I had to be comfortable saying no more than saying yes, because I had to protect my time. My time is so valuable. I have to protect that time because I have very important long-term goals, and I have a vision. I can see that happening. I know it's going to happen, and that's the price I have to pay. So you have to be okay with that, and I'm okay with that.
Morgan Housel, who wrote the book Psychology of Money, said it beautifully. He said if he was pushed to come up with one rule for life, know what something costs, be willing to pay its price. Whether it's a relationship, whether it's an entrepreneurial endeavor, whether it's a charity or a foundation or a mission that you're on, you've never wavered. You have this vision of what you want to do for the field, and you've never wavered. I know it sounds like I've asked you this in many different ways, but where does that certainty come from? That clarity come from? Because it's not normal. Many people have doubt, which means to hesitate. Oh, I don't know if I could do it. It's courageous, right? I was looking at St. Thomas Aquinas talking about love, and his mentor, coming back, was Aristotle, who said, courage is the highest human virtue. All other human virtues follow it. So what you're calling normal is courageous. So stepping outside and asking you, how do you have the courage to doggedly chase that vision that you have?
What's the alternative? So I've never looked at it as having other options. If you have a vision about something that's going to change people's lives, and you have the confidence in yourself, and people around you have confidence in you and your abilities, to me, there's no alternative. You got to follow through. And for some reason, I think it's a combination of environment, upbringing, personality. I'm fearless. I don't think about that. What if this happened? What if that happened? I don't think
Is that
way.
because of what happened when you were 18?
I think it's a combination of that and the encouragement that I've always got in my home growing up. There was never any negative conversation. Well, don't try this because this could happen. That was never there. You can do anything you want. You can do anything that you set your mind to do. You can accomplish anything. So that wasn't there. Right. So it's a combination of that, my personality. Yeah. And again, I think I'm willing to pay the price. I understand there's a lot of sacrifice involved, and there has been, and I don't think about that.
So as we get closer to the end of our conversation here, I just want to, it'll sound like a shout out, but it's more of, I just want to point to what you've done for me. When you and I met 2019, 2020, after that, it was just factual. Many things in my life started going up and up and up. And it was because you challenged me at the core values, beliefs, identity, and purpose level. And it made me reflect and get introspective on what truly matters. And I found that not just resilience, but that conviction that you're talking about, like, of what's the alternative. And when I was a young coach in this field, I was getting frustrated because I felt like this work works. And I was saying, like, why isn't it working for this person? Why do I want it more than this person? Why was that? And I gave you a call, and you shared advice from McCurdy, I believe is the one who told you it. And it was a simple line of, I hope that you can remember it, but if you're not getting results, what are the reasons why you're not getting results? Do you remember what?
It's not important enough. That's why he always said, time and money are two things that we never have enough of, but we always have for the things that are important to us. And if we ask, why isn't this person doing this? Why isn't this happening? It's because it's not important enough. Everything that's important enough, we find a way.
I've said it on every other podcast, but thank you so much for being a guiding light in my life. And I want to give this opportunity for you to talk about the upcoming things that you have in the next few months. And if somebody's listening, where they can reach out and get in touch, and whether they're a sports psychologist or a client, where would you send them?
I have a website, CristinaVersari.com. Or it can be through the university, the San Diego University for Integrative Studies. My email address is there and our phone number. But I'll give the phone number. It's 619-297-1999.
Wonderful.
So I'm available. Anybody that needs help deciding what direction to take in sports psychology. I spend a lot of time talking to people that just want guidance. Even if they're not going to be our students, I'm very committed to help in the field of sports psychology. I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So in 3 months, I have this new project. Maybe we'll come back and talk more about that.
That would be wonderful. And she does protect her time, but if it's important enough, you'll be reaching out to those contacts. And taking us home here, is there anything that you wish we talked about? Given the zeitgeist of the times, or anything that's on your heart before we wrap up?
I think probably the summary of what we talked about that's really important for anybody that's trying to accomplish something. Find a mentor. Find a role model, someone that has done what you're trying to accomplish, and ask them for guidance. I had wonderful mentors, and a mentor, sometimes it doesn't have to be someone that you personally know or that you can talk to them. You can listen to people on YouTube now. There's videos about everything, and everybody is available. So it doesn't really have just to be people that you can be in contact with. You can learn from others that have done what you're trying to accomplish in many different ways. But and I had great mentors. It was never intended that way. Most of them were my boss, people that I worked for, that I took advantage of learning from them because they knew so much more. They had so much experience, and they're so generous with their time. And why am I going to try to figure something out on my own if I can ask them?
Right.
How did you do this? How do you do that?
Yeah.
And I had Bob McCurdy at the Christ Center. I had Tom Sanders at the MBA. I had Dr. Ogilvy, Dr. Neidfer, and those are the founders of the field of sports psychology. They spend a lot of time helping me, guide me with my career, and many others. So I've always had mentors. So I suggest to people that are trying to plan something that they're trying to accomplish in their lives, find a mentor.
Right.
If you want to be a bodybuilder, go to the gym and look at the best one. Who is the best one that you see that you want to be just like that one?
Yeah.
Go ask him.
Yeah.
Say, can you spend a few minutes with me? I want to be like you.
Yeah.
They have a recipe.
Yeah.
And they say, okay, this is what you're going to do, A, B, C. They might charge for that, but pay. Even if you have to pay. They'll tell exactly what to do. It took them years to figure that out.
Right.
Years. Most of those people that are successful and they're getting results, they spent so many years learning, trying to figure that out, taking class, then hiring trainers.
Yeah.
Spend the money, invest in yourself. That's the best investment. Invest in yourself, in your health, your physical health, your emotional health, in your education. Invest in that. That's in every day. Every day learn something new. Work on yourself every single day. And that's the difference between people that are successful and people that are wondering what happened.
Mentors are meant to tour you through life. I say thank you, and I hope I say it enough. And I heard it beautifully said. There are brain waves, there are heart waves, there are sound waves, but there's no such thing as darkness waves. There are light waves, and you've been that light in my life. Thank you for being in my corner. I look to give you credit as much as I can along the way. And I have a saying, I don't know if I coined it, but it's emulate until you can innovate, which means find somebody who is really great at what they do, emulate them, copy them, learn from them, and then over time, innovate and make it your own. So I appreciate you seeing me. I appreciate you believing in me, and being so generous with your resources, your time, and your energy to help me get to the altitude that I'm at. So
Can I
super
ask you a
grateful.
question?
Absolutely.
What was the one thing that helped you the most?
Belief. You saw me fully, personality, story, prepared every time, like you said, congruent, showed up. Never a doubt in my mind that you were going to be there. And when I asked you a tough question, you would say, "Let me think about that." And it's because you wanted to give me a candid answer. And I think, I just feel very lucky and blessed that you saw me fully, saw where I could go, and was like, "Yeah, you could have that and more." And helped me create a business plan, and things have, like you told me it would. When you set goals and you set a vision, things will work out even better than that.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I got so quiet is because I was going through many different things, but the number one thing that came up was the belief in the way you see me.
So that goes back to the feedback, right? How important it is to give feedback to people, because we don't get enough feedback. It's not on purpose. It's just people spend most of the time thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about us. They're not thinking about someone else. So that we don't get enough feedback.
What about, what's it like being a mentor? What's it like being a mentor? Because I'm sure there's people out there in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s that would also love to be in your position, pouring into others.
Yeah. Make yourself available. Share your experience with others. Find ways to do that. You can be a Boy Scout leader. You can be a coach. There's so many opportunities for people to help younger people to accomplish something that they're good at. If you're good at something, share that with others. It is a nice feeling to be able, to me, to be able to help other people to accomplish whatever their goals are. And I'm very grateful for the mentors that I had. It was never planned, was not, I'm going to go find a mentor today. It happened naturally because I found myself in a position where those extremely intelligent people that, in my opinion, are very successful in doing what I was trying to do at the time, and approach people. They never came to me to tell me to share something. I went to them every single time. Mm-hmm. Said, I'm trying to do something and I need your advice. Can you give me an advice? What do you think I should do in this situation? They never had to think for very long. They knew exactly what to say because they've done it before. They have the experience. And one of the things that I appreciate the most from my mentors, they were very honest about their thoughts. And at times when they felt that I shouldn't do something, they told me that, which I really appreciate. Tom Sanders was very good at that. Always saying, I don't think that's going to work out.
Yeah.
You need to try something different.
Yeah.
And that's why you go to them. Why are you going to spend your time trying something that someone else already tried and they know it doesn't work?
Right.
So I'm very grateful.
And that's true love. That's wanting what's best for them, not what they want to hear, but what's best for them.
Yeah.
It's different.
and just listen to people and trust their judgment.
Yeah.
Because they've done it before. I've always trusted them. I didn't question when they said, go ahead and do it. They said, no, don't do it. I trust that.
Right.
Because I knew they're being very honest with me and they wanted to help.
Well, thank you for always being honest with me.
Well, it's been my pleasure.
Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.